Hi everyone! Today I want to decorate this pre-made rectangle policy envelope album by Graphic 45. Let's open it up together. I actually haven't seen what's inside yet, so we are going to take a look at everything together and explore it as we go. So, what do we have here and what is this album made of? Instead of a regular page, this album has envelopes inside. They works like page. Oh, they have magnets. Okay, a really strong magnets. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 envelopes total. Also, we have a set of regular tags. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 tags. I really love this format. And I definitely want to decorate it in a fun and creative way. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to work with the Farmhouse collection using the keepsake kit with metal dice set. This one. It has 16 double-sided 12 by 12 inch sheets, 8 double-sided patterns and solid 12 by 12 inch sheets, Farmhouse ephemera set, Farmhouse sticker set. Okay, and of course die set. I have. What is ephemera set? Sticker sheet and beautiful gorgeous paper. I really love it. Okay. I don't really trust tape when it comes to attaching pages inside a binding, so I decided to try stitching them instead. I'm not sure how well it's going to work, but if it doesn't look perfect, I can always cover it up later. Alright, I'm going to give it a try. So here is what I'm doing with this album, and honestly, it was totally unexpected. I didn't plan to take it apart at all, but once I started looking at the structure, I realized I really wanted to make it stronger. So I decided to disassemble the album and reinforce the binding, and also strengthen the way the pages are attached inside the binding, because I just don't trust any tapes. First, I numbered all the pages, and now I'm carefully separating each envelope page like this. so I can attach everything back into the binding, but in a much more secure way. Okay. When I was taking the album apart, I noticed that the envelopes are not glued on one of the sides. Look at this. And I immediately started thinking about how I could use it. I can actually add extra pages and tuck them right inside here. But before I glue anything in, I need to trim this side just a little bit, because otherwise this part will hit the spine and the page won't flip nicely. So that's what I'm going to do now. I slide the envelope onto my cutting mat, and then I use ruler and a craft knife. Where is my craft knife? To trim off just a tiny strip, about 1/8 of an inch, or around 2-3 millimeters, right from this edge. So I'm doing the same with all my pages. The last envelope was glued at the bottom, at the side. I'm not sure why it was like that, but I was able to open it pretty easily, and I did the same thing with it as I did with all the others. So this is what everything looks like right now. And while the envelopes are not attached back into the binding yet, because it might be easier to work with them this way, I want to start preparing all the scrapbook paper pieces for decorating. Alright, let's start with the pocket on the inside covers. For these pockets we need 2 pieces measuring 5¼ by 5½ inches. 1 and this 2. And 2 pieces measuring 5¼ by 2¼ inches. I already cut everything, and I decided to stitch around the edge of my pieces. I left one set without stitching, and I stitched the other one so you can see the difference. Stitched pieces always look so much nicer and more finished. I'm not gluing them down yet, because I'll do that after the album is fully assembled. So for now, I'm just adding a little number on the back to show which page each piece belongs to, so I don't mix anything up later. So at this stage, I'm basically cutting everything to size and stitching around the edge. Okay. For page 2, we need a piece that measures 4 3/4 inches by 6 5/8 inches. And since we have 6 pockets like this, we need 6 pieces in total. So I already cut one piece, and now we need to trim it and make look like this. Why am I doing this? To make sure the paper adheres nicely, I want to cut out this area where the magnet is. Later on, I'll cover it with decorative elements, and it will look much cleaner and more professional than I just glued the paper right over it. So here is how I'm doing it. First, I need to trim this side because it's not perfectly straight. I find the lowest point. Here it is. Pocket 8. Okay, pocket 8. I find the lower point. Here it is. And from that point, I measure 1/8 of an inch here, and then I cut it off like this. A little bit more. Okay, perfect. Now I need to cut out the space for the magnet. I'm measuring where the magnet is placed, and then I make 2 cuts, each 7/8 of an inch long. And then I simply trim off the part we don't need. Let's start. Now all that's left is to stitch around the edge of this piece. Okay. Now let's work on the flap out our envelope. For this part, we need two pieces measuring 4 3/4 inches by 1 1/8 inches. So for all pockets, we need 12 pieces total. Here and here. Okay. First, let's work on the outside piece, the front one. Here we just need to trim these sides because this shape is not a rectangle, it's more like a trapezoid. So marking where I need to cut and then trim off all the extra. For the second piece, we can simply use the first one as a temple. There is no need to measure again because we need them to be exactly the same. And on the second piece, we need to cut out the opening for the magnet again. Now we can stitch the finished pieces around the edge. And for page 3, I'm cutting a piece measuring 4 3/4 inches by 6 5/8 inches. We need 6 pieces like this. We don't need to trim anything or cut anything out. We only stitch it around the edges. It's probably the easiest piece in the whole album. And this is how it's going to look on the page. So this is basically how I prepare all my pieces before I start assembling the album. Okay, I've prepared all the pieces for the main pages. Now let's add some extra pages to our base pages. Like I mentioned before, I want to use the fact that the pocket is not glued on the one side. And that's exactly where I want to insert an extra page. So what are these extra pages going to be? For free, my pockets, I choose these small plastic pockets. I have this set. And I took 3 these plastic pockets. They are 4 by 4 inches. And so what do I do with them? I add 1 score line here. Insert the pocket and then stitch it like this. This stitching line holds the plastic page securely inside, and at the same time it closes the unglued side of the envelope. For the remaining 3 envelope pages, I want to add vellum pages. The size of each vellum page is 4 7/8 inches by 6 inches. I score it along the long side and make 1 score line at half of the inch from the edge. Then I fold it and insert it like this. And like this. Okay. Also, I want to add a cardstock page. The size of this one is 5 5 by 4 1/8 inches. For this cardstock piece, I'm making 2 score lines. The first one is half of the inch from the edge. Half of the inch. And the second one is 1/8 inch away from the first score line. Then I temporarily hold everything in place with clips. And I'm going to stitch it using my sewing machine, like this. Now To reinforce the way our pages are attached to the binding, we are going to need some fabric. We need 6 fabric pieces like this, each one approximately 4 inches by 5.5 inches. I'm going to finish the top and the bottom edges using zigzag stitch on my regular sewing machine, and then I'll continue. And now we need to turn this piece into something like this. How do we do it? We fold it like this. And then we stitch right along this line. I also changed my thread color so the stitching would be less noticeable. Okay, let's do it. So we have all 6 of these pieces prepared, and this is how I'm going to attach them to my page. I'm going to glue it, and this is only temporary hold. Later I will stitch them so they will be secure really well. But for now I just need to glue them in place. Okay, let's do it. So this is what my pages look like right now. For now, let's set them aside and move on to creating the base of the binding. From cardstock, I cut a piece measuring 1 7/8 inches by 5.25 inches. And from fabric, I cut a piece measuring 4.25 inches by approximately 7 inches. And now we need to glue the cardstock piece onto the fabric, and that's exactly what I'm going to do next. Now I want to stitch along the top and bottom edges of this piece. Now I can start attaching my pages into the binding. I'm going to start from the back, so I'm taking the last envelope page. And I'm attaching my page right here at the end. I place it like this. And then I need to fix it. Once I'm sure everything is aligned and straight, I'm going to stitch it on my sewing machine right here along this line. Okay, this page is attached. Now I'm taking the next one, the second to last, and I'm going to place it as close as possible to the page that's already attached to the binding here. Then I clip it in place and stitch it down on my sewing machine. Okay, let's do it. And I'm going to repeat the same step with all the remaining pages. My stitching line turned out a little uneven because it wasn't very comfortable to sew this way, but I'm not worried about it. Later I'm going to cover it with a pretty patterned with a pretty scrapbook paper border anyway. Well, the binding is finished. So for now, we can set it aside and start working on the cover. So here is what I did next. I removed the pockets from the cover. And this is what it looks like now. Why did I do that? Because I want to wrap the cover with fabric. Of course, you don't have to do this. You can keep the cover exactly as it is and decorate it that way. But for anyone who wants to recreate this project, I want to show you how I work with fabric. So I cut a piece of fabric And now I'm starting to glue it directly onto the cover. First, I'm applying glue only to the spine, and then I attach the fabric there. Okay, let's do it. And now I carefully glue down each side. And now all that's left is to glue the fabric down along the edges. I also stitched around the edges of the cover and attached the ribbon. On one side, I made a loop and added this metal element. On the other side, I simply fold a long ribbon in half and stitch it as well. So I can tie the album closed. this way. I also added ephemera piece from ephemera set on the back and made stitches. So basically the back of the cover is finished, and now we can decorate the front cover, and then we'll be ready to attach the binding into the cover. For decorating the cover, I prepared this tag. I already cut this decorative piece for the top using the matching die, stitched it and glued it onto the tag. So basically the tag is ready to be placed on the cover. Next, I picked out some elements from the ephemera set, and also I want to tie a bow on the tag. I choose this yarn. It's really interesting. It's made of different threads with various textures and colors, and now I want to tie a little bow on that tag and arrange tails in a nice way. And this is what our cover looks like. And now we need to cover the not so pretty parts on the binding and the spine. For that, I cut two pieces measuring 1 7/8 inches by 5 inches, and I'm going to glue one piece here and the other one. Oh, no, not this one, not this one, and the other one here. And the next step is to glue the binding into the cover. Now I'm applying glue only to this part. attaching one side of the binding, and then I'm going to wait for it to dry. Okay. Now I'm going to glue the second side of the binding, and I let the album dry while it's closed. For the first time, I open the album very carefully and gently. Press everything down. So it opens nicely and the spine settles into place. And I also want to show you something. I added a few more decorative elements to the cover while I still could, while it was still possible to stitch everything, because next I'm going to glue the pockets and inside covers. So the album opens really well and it's almost completely assembled. Now let's move on to the inside covers. I cut 2 pieces of black cardstock measuring 7 1/4 inches by 5 3/8 inches. And I simply slide them into the pocket what I removed from the cover earlier, like this. You can add a tiny drop glue just to hold the pocket in place so it doesn't move around, and then I'm gluing everything back where it belongs. One page goes to the very first page and the one goes to the last page here. Now it's finally time to start gluing all the scrapbook paper pieces onto the pages. I already glued down this first piece. Before I glue the other one, I like to arrange a little bit decoration first, just to see how everything will look. I also want to add a few stitching lines, and only after that I'll glue the whole panel down. This page will stay mostly simple without much decoration. The decoration will only be on the flap and also right here to cover the magnet. I'm still thinking about what exactly I want to add here. Also, I want to place a little title label here. By the way, I cut apart two sheets of scrapbook paper, one with borders here, and one with cards. So now I have even more extra pieces to use as embellishment. So this one will go here. And here I also want to add a few decorative elements. Something like this. Okay. The first spread is finished. I'm going to decorate the extra pages a little later using leftover scrapbook paper and embellishments. So for now, let's keep moving. I'll decorate one more spread together with you, and then I'll finish the remaining 5 spreads off camera and just show you the final result. The design will be very, very simple through the whole album. So, on the page 3, we have this scrapbook paper piece, and I want to add a border at the bottom, but I don't want to glue it down completely. I want to turn it into a pocket so I can tuck in pocket and extra elements or anything I'd like. Example like page 4. Stay without any decoration. Like I said, I'll only cover the magnet on both sides. I want to do something like this, make it, but I'm going to make it a little smaller. And this, but I will also stay without any extra embellishment. So this is the second spread. We'll stay just like this for now. Next, I'm planning to do some die cuts using my dies. For example, I have the dies that came with the kit with this collection. And I'll also choose a few other dies that fit this theme. I'm going to use my scrapbook paper leftovers, all small pieces for that. Once the main pages are finished, I'll come back and show you the result. And then we'll decorate the extra pages together and the album will be basically finished. Now, I would like to decorate the extra page together with you and show you exactly how I do it. After that, we'll flip through the finished album and I'll explain in detail how I decorated all the other pages. So, for the extra page, we need a piece of scrapbook paper measuring 3 7/8 by 4 3/4 inches. I've already stitched around the perimeter, as you can see, and now I'm going to start decorating it. I would like to create a small layered cluster, so I prepare this piece of vellum and a small scrap of leftover scrapbook paper. The rooster will be the main focal point on this mini page, so I'm placing it first. And next, I'm adding the phrase "Hello, friend." I think it fits this page perfectly. Let me glue down the vellum piece first because it keeps shifting around and needs a little bit of fixing in place. And also I can go ahead and secure the scrapbook paper piece in the center. Next, I'm adding the element I created using my dies. I'd like to bring a bit more yellow onto this page. So these flowers are going to work perfectly. I also want to support the dark red tones in the collection, so I'm adding a few red elements. I think layered flowers work beautifully with this collection, so I'm stacking one die cut on top of the another, alternating the colors. I think it looks great together. Let's add a bit more red and of course some more yellow. I'll also echo this flower with a small heart and I'm adding just a tiny red accent. That's pretty much it. Oh wait, I also prepared these threads. I already showed you this yarn earlier. I separated it into individual threads and picked the color that matched this page and simply tied it. I think I'll trim it a little smaller and I'd like to add it underneath right here. Okay, like this. I can start gluing everything down, and after that I'll add a few decorative machine stitches and the page will be finished. So this is how the page turned out, and now let's quickly put together the other two pages. pages are ready to be glued into the album. I'll quickly adhere them in place and then I'll show you the final result. The album is finally ready for the full walkthrough. As you can see, I filled all the plastic sleeves with scrapbook paper and I decorated some of them. On the other, I left space for small photos. There is also room for photos inside the pockets. And here as well, plenty of space. You can either add a photo or leave it as a decorative element. Inside the envelopes, I already laid the tags, and using my dies, I also cut matching scrapbook paper for them and stitched around the edges. These tags can be used either for photos or for journaling. Let's move on to the second spread. This mini pocket can also hold a photo. I added a small layered embellishment here. I placed a sticker on top of a die cut and it created a really cute dimensional accent. Moving on, more space for photo here and here as well. Inside the envelope we also have a tag. I added these threads to make it easier to pull the tag out. Let's keep going. Everything follows the same idea, lots of room for photos. You can place very small. Here you can place very small photos or add a little decorative details. And again, there is a tag inside. Right here, you can tack a photo underneath the decoration. That's why I didn't glue it down completely, so later you can easily slide a photo under it and arrange everything nicely. You can also slide a photo under this half of the flower. I created one layered flower and then cut it into two pieces. One half is used here to cover the magnet and the other half is placed on the opposite page. And this is how it's turned out. Here we also have a tag, as you probably already noticed. Moving on, very simple decoration again, and once more I didn't glue everything down completely, so there is a room to tuck in a photo later. There is space for very small photos here, more photo space here and a tag inside the envelope. This page is decorated with a little banners, such cute details, and again space for photos. Photo space here and here. As you can see, this album can hold quite a large numbers of photos, which is exactly what I wanted to add here. We have another beautiful decorative page. You can leave it just like this as a decorative element, or you can add photos later. And another pocket for everything you'd like to tuck inside. And this is the album I created. I hope you enjoyed making it together with me. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye and see you soon.